Secrets from a Coach. Thrive and maximise your potential in the evolving workplace. Your weekly podcast with Debbie Green of Wishfish and Laura Thompson-Staveley of Phenomenal Training. Debs.
Law, you all right?
Yeah, I'm feeling, I don't know, what's the word I'm trying to find, Debs? Abundant.
I'm not sure. Oh, abundant. Not that I can never say it. Scarcity.
Scarcity.
Not that one.
Listen to that. She's so programmed on her own positive mindset stuff, she can't even say the negative words anymore. No, what we're not looking for is a scarcity mindset. What does a scarcity mindset mean? That means, let's say, a mate within my team gets a chance to get involved in a really good project, and I'm miffed because I think their success is one less opportunity for me, and that's probably how I would define a scarcity mindset. I had a manager of a sales team say to me once, Debs, that if you've got a team, particularly if you're in some kind of KPI type of role like sales or service, I know a lot of roles are like that, but if there's a team where energy is everything in terms of achieving it, the scarcity mindset is a really tough one to then be able to achieve performance stuff. And I said, well, how would you know if a team had a scarcity mindset? I know we'll just define it in a moment. Yeah. And they said it's where they don't clap for each other if one of them gets an award. Whereas, I know, it's sort of mean-spirited, so it's jealousy, it's envy. So a scarcity mindset is, if someone over there gets a piece of good stuff, that's one less opportunity for me. And we could each, carry that in our own individual mindset. But when you've got a team who are all kind of out for each other and there's that internal competition, then it can be a bit kind of tough. So I know we're going to kind of play around with that in terms of what does it mean? How do we encourage an abundant mindset in our team? But just to get a bit of context, this is the third in our 4-part focus looking at opportunity mindset.
It is.
And we've looked at how to set motivating goals, how to keep an optimistic mindset, particularly if those goals start to slide back down again. So how do you keep that going? And then this one, we're really focusing from a team perspective. So tell me, Debs, in your experience as a team coach, what impact does energy and morale have on actual bottom line team performance?
Lots and lots, because if the team are aligned and working together, and as you said, they're looking out for each other, they're their biggest fans, they're all in it together, the difference it makes is incredible, because you can, as you said about the energy, you can feel the energy when you walk into that team, because they generally want to be the best, but they're not doing it in spite of everyone, they're doing it because of everyone. So they are looking out for each other, they're covering each other, they're giving people opportunity, they're not taking all the glory, like you were saying earlier. And it makes a huge difference in a team. And I was just going to say, have I come across many that have that pure brilliance, if you like, as a team? Yes, I have, but it takes work and it doesn't always last forever because for whatever reason. And so it's always interesting because we obviously get wheeled in to talk about teams that aren't performing very well and how do we get over their toxicity. See, I can't even say that word either. Can I, Laura? Doesn't even register for me.
She's programmed herself so strongly.
To not even say those words. So when we look at what the difference is that because of their way they've been encouraged, they are changing any negative to a positive. So if somebody said we can't do, someone's always there to say, well, yeah, maybe we can't, but let's have a look at options, alternatives, opportunities that are there. And because that team are working so well together, because a lot of it's come from the setup, but they're few and far between sometimes, and it takes a lot of work to be able to create that I suppose abundance, a mindset within a team, and they smash results time after time and time, and people want to join them because they just have a sense of, wow, that's an amazing team to be part of. I have seen it, and there are pockets of it, but it takes work and a lot of I suppose a lot of dedication from the line manager as well, and a commitment from the team, because they're really clear on where they're all heading.
So let's do a bit of defining around what an abundant mindset might look like. So if scarcity is the perception that if one of my teammates gets a bit of good news, that's one less opportunity for me to get good news. So the scarcity mindset is the pot of success is shrinking every time someone else gets it. The abundance mindset, I guess, is the other, the flip of that, which is there's as much luck and success out there as needs to be generated. So if one of your teammates gets promoted or gets a hero email or gets a nice juicy project to work on that you would have liked, you're happy for them because it means there's opportunity that is swirling around in the environment, not one less opportunity for you. And then the energy that then has is we are really delighted for internal team success because it means I'm part of a successful team rather than sort of secretly competing against each other. So examples of what that might look like. So a sales team environment where when one person is on the phone or in conversation with a client, they're also looking for opportunities that one of their team can benefit from. Could be someone who is on a night shift and to then create an abundance with the morning shift team. They're doing little favours that just set up that team for success rather than maybe stitching them up for a really difficult sort of first shift start. So whatever type of role you're in, whatever type of industry, you can see it, Debs, can't you? When there are teams that are genuinely looking out for each other. They are not competing against each other. There's just that sense of we are working towards this rather than just I am looking to get this today.
I think so. And I remember years and years and years ago, I worked for a telecoms company and with the direct sales teams. And it was really interesting because I looked after a particular region, which was huge. And when you went down to each of the different people, different teams within each of those regions, I think it was 7 in each of the London and the South East region. There was a very different vibe amongst each team as you went into their offices to see what it is. And when you go, I wonder what that was all about, because some were working super well. And I always remember the team that were in good old Basildon in Essex. They had this huge energy and willingness to work. And the same, when we went into the North London office, the same thing was there as well. And then you looked around and went, how has that happened where some of the others weren't necessarily working as well? And that showed in their results. And then you looked at their leaders and you looked at who their supervisors were at the time. And you just watched their characters play out to encouragement of the team. They really encouraged diverse thoughts of thinking. They were inclusive. They celebrated those successes. They recognized that, if somebody maybe hadn't hit their sales target that month, they still recognized the contribution they had made. So the way they'd set the teams up was incredible to see. And they were smashing it. And people would come over to those particular two and look at how are they doing that? So their leaders, when managers, were always sort of used to roll out to try and fix other teams. But they couldn't always do that because unless, you're part of it. And they had good communication. I think that was the other thing. They encouraged real good, honest conversations. And there was no judgment. There was no egos, even though some of those salespeople were hitting massive targets, getting great big commission. And they encouraged new people who came into the team. And it was just amazing to watch. And you go, yeah, that's why, because they've just created that environment where people felt psychologically safe as well, which wasn't that term around back in the day. We're talking about like 20 odd years ago now. But now I recognise that if they've created the right environment for their team. Powerful stuff.
Yeah. And from a retention point of view, whether you are a formal manager, a formal leader, or part of a team, it's each of those individual team members that makes up that team. It's not just one positive leader who then automatically then creates an environment. It's that teamship, which we've talked about before, about each of those kind of members. So I know in a moment we're going to look at some practical things that can then help. But I guess where this is particularly useful now in today's transformational times is when the good news and the measures and the KPIs are all going well, it's easy to tap into that abundance mindset, because whether that's cash flow, whether that's service levels, whether it's compliance, whatever your measure is, when the going is good, it's easy to look out for each other. The test is when the figures are down, when there's been some kind of turmoil, when there's a challenge on, or there's lots of change. And that's certainly what we're seeing now, Debs, isn't it?
Yeah,
is
definitely.
A lot of teams are getting tested because they've got either a lot to do to either repair and restore after a period of disruption, or there are some realities that are happening in the pursuit of innovation. You know, some things get stopped and other things get started, and how a team deals with that, that's the real test. I guess teams are like tea bags, aren't they? It's the when you're in hot water, then you know.
I like that. Teams are like tea bags. Yeah.
Teams are like tea bags. It's you can tell the strength of a team, not when it's all there and it's all easy and it's all chilled, but when there's hot water, that's then the test of a team.
Yeah.
Classically, the example that was always used is, great management or great leadership is what happens when you're away.
Yes.
That's the test of how effective that leadership is.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's have a look at some practical things then. No matter where we are within that food chain in the world of work, what does it mean to create an abundant mindset as a team? So Debs, I've got some practical things that can then help. They're pretty much sort of focus around meetings and what that means in terms of the types of meetings. And then it'd be great to get your thoughts on what it means maybe from a kind of a leadership perspective, or from from some other higher level stuff. So very practically, some of the things that people are taking away from our sessions at the moment is, how do we structure our team meetings?
Yes.
Are we always focusing on the negative and the things we haven't done, which can grind away that abundance mindset? Because if it doesn't actually feel like anything is working, then it's easy to kind of, to not feel like there's much opportunity out there. Actually, if you were to flip it and let's say, very simply, you were to ask people, right, let's get together, we'll have a review meeting, or it's part of our monthly or weekly catch up. Can everyone prepare one thing that has gone well this week, or one thing that they are looking forward to this week? And what you're doing is you are basically forcing a balance of, typically when people get together, they're talking about stuff that they've got to deal with, stuff that hasn't been done yet. But if actually you're able to create more of a balanced approach, where we start off talking about good news stuff, what it does then is it just gets that air of abundance going around, which is, well, we may have lots of challenge, but we've already dealt with lots of stuff. So let's do a little bit of a mini acknowledgement of that, and then let's use that energy to then propel forward.
Yeah.
So very simply, just even how we spend our time when we have team conversations can be a really practical place to start. What's one thing that has gone well for you? What's one thing you're looking forward to this week? And just by its very nature, even the most begrudging of people, because they have to talk about something that's a bit positive, it can just create a bit more of a balance towards abundance.
I think, and that's such a good idea. And I remember on one of the workshops that we were running together, where you positioned that with somebody in the team who was on the workshop, who said their team always focused on the negative, and then you gave them that piece of supportive advice and go, give it a go. And I remember them turning up at the end of the workshops and saying that they had adopted that approach, and the difference it had made to the team was huge. So it just shows you, by embracing as the leader of that team an open mindset, the courage, I suppose, to give something new a go and to persevere with it. I think that's the don't just do it once. It's like, no, I'm going to persevere with this, because it made that team turn around, and you could see the difference it had made to her, and it took away the pressure that she might have been putting on herself. So yeah, that's a really good one. I love that, and we've seen it work in action, right?
We have, and anyone can do that. You don't need to be a CEO talking from the rooftops about all this amazing opportunity ahead. You might be someone that is new in, or really kind of immersed in that frontline environment, and how we spend our time in our communication. That is abundance in action. On the whole, are we balancing the things that haven't gone so well that we need to improve alongside the things that we've already done? And that's a very simple way that all of us can then kind of do for life in general, really, Debs.
I think you're right.
Because I think one of the things that I'm certainly noticing is, and we really have to catch ourselves, ourselves as coach and facilitators as well, is if the last couple of years have been really dominated by problem solving, sorting out problems, dealing with things, there's never quite enough resource, you've got to be really kind of, you feel a bit sort of strained, then it's surprising how easy that can become patterns and habits. So you're always looking for the worst case scenario, rather than maybe a bit more of a balanced approach, which is easier through more stable times.
Yeah, I love that, because I think then if you've created that sense of, looking at as creating the balance within the team, it just makes people feel like they want to take part, and they feel like, oh, maybe the glass is half full rather than half empty, and that we can make that, I suppose, come at it from a collaborative approach, as opposed to, I can't be bothered. It's like, no, we're in this together. How can we solve it together? And if you've set the team up to be able to have those great conversations that enable that type of discussion to take place, then I think it's great, because we can't do this on our own. And in a team, that's the same thing. You cannot do it alone. You need the team with you. And I think that creates some sustainability in that team, because it can only be done as a collaborative endeavour. It can't be done any other way. So I think that's the bit where we just need to think about how we approach it. I love it.
Yeah. The another little tidbit that is just a really useful one is, particularly if you're a team and you're going through change, it can be quite grueling. Whenever does anyone get to the end of a change journey? It's like an escalator, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Just keep going.
It's a sign of life, because the day you stop is the day you're decaying.
Yes.
But to share star stories, so to share a little shooting star moments, so little moments of, oh, actually, we did embed that change and it's starting to work. But if everyone's too busy to acknowledge it, then we can sort of lose that bit, and then that creates a bit of an abundance mindset, because actually if we can do that, then we can do more. And from a building trust in the process point of view, sharing star stories, and star, you might recognize, that's a competency based interviewing structure, but it's a really neat, efficient way to give people a bit of a proper anecdote to hold on to. So situation, task, action, result. So we had this situation where we did use that new working process. The task we had to do was complete a customer profile or whatever. The action we did was this, which was the new one. And actually the result was, it was a lot easier than we used to do it in the old days. And even if that was the change that was embedded in March, in September, 6 months later, that's actually where hopefully the fruits of that, your labour have come in. But because everyone's already focusing on the next change, then it's easy to sort of lose track on what we have done. So
I love that. I love that. And I think the other thing is creating that, I suppose, the mindset within the team of being able to get really curious. I think that's the other thing that I really like, is like asking lots of questions, be curious about it, challenge assumptions, maybe challenging the status quo. How do we continually strive for that growth and development? Because as you said, if we think we figured it all out, then we're going to stunt our own growth. So how do we give people opportunities to question, and maybe play different roles in the conversations that we have, and maybe wear some different hats in order to create a great conversation?
It's interesting you talk about hats, because it's a bit of an oldie, but it's I don't know, it's got a resurgence, Debs. People are asking to look at Edward de Bono's 6 thinking hats again.
Yes.
So Edward de Bono, about 40 years ago, really sort of defined the intangible, which is, how do you create a really rounded conversation? And you don't have to have 6 people around the table. It could be 3 of you. But this idea of hats. So you may not be a particularly optimistic person by nature, but in that conversation, you're going to actively put the yellow hat on. And the yellow hat perspective is that sunshine optimism. So one of the benefits that can have is, if no one is asking, and what's the best that could happen here, then it's easy to lose track of that abundant mindset, because if all we're doing is looking at, well, what's the worst case that can happen, the black hat thinking, as he called it, then that's going to put a tone around that conversation, that this is a conversation that is fear-based rather than abundance-based. So that kind of hat perspective, and even if you're not into training models and all that kind of stuff, that question, what's the best we could expect? What's the best outcome?
Yes.
If no one's asking that question, it's amazing how that can become kind of habit. So if you've got a meeting coming up and you know there's going to be some collaboration or some conversation, if that's not typically a question you ask, try it and see how that then influences the onward conversation.
Yeah, I love that, and I know you spoke about that before, and as you said, I think it is coming back, because if our thinking is left unchecked, then it's not going to help anybody, isn't it? So by applying your whichever hat you need in that moment to really question the process and come up with a different way of looking at it, or encouraging different diverse of thought and thinkings, and I think, why would you not use it? I love that.
And Debs, I don't know of any algorithm designer at the moment that is looking at how to automate problem-solving behaviour using 6 different perspectives and nuances in terms of that. So it is that human ability to be able to be sitting there and be one person, but ask questions from a number of different angles. And from an abundance point of view, if you've got a group of people sitting around a table having a conversation and it is genuinely diverse and rounded and thoughtful and provocative and challenging, you're unstoppable. You know, that really is what I think is going to be highly premium, not only now, but in the years ahead. But if we're all a bit gloomy and a bit kind of focused on all the stuff that could go wrong, well, interestingly enough, machines are probably really good at looking at risks, because they'll be able to assess all the things that have happened in the past. But as humans, what we're able to do is to dream and imagine all the things that could possibly happen in the future. And that requires an abundant mindset, a general belief that, on the whole, as a team, we're working towards things getting bigger, better and more improved. So what can we do to either turn this situation around or build on what we've currently done?
Yeah, and I think that's that, keeping it realistic, but also having that, as you said, a bit like we talked about last time, that optimistic approach to it, to say, let's, not, as we said last time, on our last pod, not all roses and it's all lovely, but actually realistically, let's have a look at what we can do. Otherwise, we're just not going to grow. I think, leaders that do that create environments where people don't then grow. Whereas if you create an environment where opportunities are welcomed and discussions are welcomed and people are encouraged to create that space, then make the space for the team, I think, to share perspectives and ideas in a safe space, because then you'll learn as well. So why would you not do that?
Debs, just quickly take us through, because I whenever this gets covered in a workshop, people find it really interesting, and I can't remember. You're really good at talking about it, but the enablers, the followers,
the resistors and the followers.
So tell us about that, and then what that might mean to keep an eye out, and what we can then do, whether we are leading a team, part of a team. I guess these are the challenges and opportunities around abundance. But tell us a bit about that, Kit, and how someone could use that for everyday benefit.
Yeah, I love this one. It's really simple. So what we look for within our team is take a moment to look around. Who are your enablers? Who are absolutely with you? They love everything about what you're doing. They're very much part of that team, and they're striving for success, growth, excellence, whatever it might be. So they are your enablers. You don't have to convince them at all, really, about what you're doing, how we're doing it. So you've created that space. We then have the middle group, if you like, that are what we call your followers. So, and then we have the last group, which are your resistors. So what happens is sometimes we focus just on the enablers and we forget, or we focus on the resistors because they're giving us loads of headaches. And they're the ones that are always doom and gloom, and that, say that word again that I can never say, scarcity, right?
Scarcity.
So our resistors are there, basically. so our resistors are the ones that will always look for what's not right. So glass half empty people. So what will happen is, if you then don't focus in on your followers, so the middle group of people, is to say, okay, how am I communicating with them? How do I hear their ideas? Yes, I have my enablers who I trust and respect, and I should trust and respect all my team. But anyway, so how do I engage with the followers? Because if I'm not the one engaging with the followers, then guess what? The resistors will be. And then they make a choice. And then what happens is, if the resistors have the louder voice and it's not being managed, then the followers will more likely move to become resistors, because they're getting airtime there, they're starting to create that environment where it's not so healthy. But in the absence of any management above or conversations that happen, then that's where they're going to go. So really, I always say, focusing on your followers. You know who your enablers are. Keep them going, help them out. Focus on the followers so they do not become your resistors. And we were working with a group recently which were saying they have a couple of apologies for any Normans or Nellies out there, but negative Normans or Nellies. And it was like, if we only focus on, I said, stop focusing on them, because then you're going to bring everybody down to that level. So focus on your followers, focus on your enablers, and then the resistors have a choice to either come along with you, or, as I said, show them the door. But that's, for any HR people out there, I don't mean that, but you know what I mean. So yeah, enablers, followers and resistors, sort out who they are, get connected, and start working with the groups that will make the difference.
Oh, I love it, Debs. And just as sort of a final thought, was going through my mind when you were talking about, the impact that resistors can have then on a team that then may be heavily influenced by that. As the scarcity driver is actually a key one that is used in consumer psychology. So get it quick, because once it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah.
And it is known as one of Cialdini's 6 pillars of influence.
Yes.
So the scarcity driver is used to sell stuff, because if we're always going to price it the same and it's here forever, who's going to click buy on that? So scarcity, and I think being aware of how vulnerable we are to the scarcity driver, so vulnerable that actually it's used as a marketing tool, and if you're aware of how it's easy to get caught up in that cycle of there's not enough, therefore I need to batten down the hatches. And the trick is if there is actually times of challenge and transformation and setbacks and all that kind of stuff that's part of life, how do you still hold your nerve and channel your mindset to balance it out with, okay, well, this door is closed, but what other doors are open around me? If I were to just open up my perspective a little bit, and as a team, what might that mean?
Nice.
But I think from a logical point of view, even if you're not a massive believer in this idea of mindset, it is a known consumer psychology trick. Get it once it's gone, it's gone. It's the scarcity driver. So we are very vulnerable to that, because it's part of our evolutionary, upbringing, because once the food ran out, you were gone.
That's
so
it.
Is in every part of our cell format to think, someone's got promoted, there's one less chance for me. But actually, if we were to take a bit more of a sophisticated, higher level perspective of that, they've got promoted now. Maybe it's my turn next.
Exactly.
What do I need to do to get myself set up? So then it's, I'm on that path as well.
Nice. Yeah, I love that. So should we take a pause and then think about what would be our call to actions and share the secrets, Law? Should we do that?
Beautiful.
Come on then, Law. What's your share the secret?
Well, I'm trying to avoid the evil, mean part of me that wants to try and force you to say the scarcity word again. And also how vulnerable you are, because I could encourage you to pronounce it in the wrong way, isn't it? From this point on, she's always pronouncing it as scarcity.
Scarcity.
So my share the secret would be, I think it's a bit of a tough gig if you are the one Jolly Jenny or Jolly Jim that is feeling, pretty abundant at the moment. But if you look around you, you feel like you're kind of, the only one. And I think that can grind down even the most sort of optimistic person. So beware the power of teams. When they're good, they're very good. When they're bad, they're very bad. So my share the secret would be, if you know someone that is just feeling a little bit surrounded by some difficult stuff at the moment, get them to listen to this. They're not the only one. There are lots of people that are feeling the same. And as always with our podcast, it's a good starting point to then have a conversation about what that means to tap into your abundance.
Oh, I love that, Law. And so I suppose my call to action would then be is check in on your communication. How are you communicating with others, and then encouraging people to put their ideas and perspectives in? So be very mindful of, have I heard from everybody? Have I heard everybody's perspective? If I haven't, how do I create that space for that to happen?
Wonderful. So, Debs, there's nothing like being forced to talk about abundance that actually, on the whole, makes you feel a bit cheerier, isn't it? So,
exactly.
So even just thinking about what does it mean to be abundant as a team already gets you looking at maybe the day-to-day in a bit of a different way, which is exactly what we wanted on this 4-part series, looking opportunity to mindset. So I'm really looking forward to our final part, which will be in the episode after, about knowing your personal saboteurs.
I love
The
this.
things that can stitch you up and hold us back. And I know you got some really juicy content around that, so I can't wait to learn about that, because every time people say to me, cool, have you ever heard Debs talk about that saboteur stuff? And I'm like, no. So I'm really looking forward to that, because I know there's a couple of quizzes that maybe we can take people through as well.
Yeah,
so
I'm looking forward to that as well, Law.
Yeah. Oh God, are you going to do me live? Are you going to do my saboteurs live?
Oh, I won't do your saboteur live, Law. No, I will put you through that. That's not collaborative at all, is it?
No, not at all. That is a scarcity mindset.
That's a scarcity mindset.
Oh, well, have a wonderful week. May it be abundant and full of joy.
You. Yes, and to you too, lovely. Enjoy.
Yeah, have a brilliant week.
See you later. Love you.